Interpreters are immensely valuable to any military deployment when one does not know the local language. As well, their local knowledge can save commanders and troops time and aggravation. Driving to Bihac, we had a conversation with one of the interpreters based at Koralichi. Sadly, I did not get her name. She would be taking a well-deserved break for a few days in her hometown of Bihac before returning to work in Koralichi. In a few days, we would move further south towards Cluj and we would not see her again.
And then first 2 months I didn't do anything. Then I got offer from my friend which had a pizza place, and he offered me to work as a waitress in a pizza place. So I was working for 10 months as a waitress. That was the first time in my life I'm doing something like that, but still I was earning money and feeding family because none of them was working, and I had salary every first month. And after 10 months I stopped, and then I had like 4 months break. Then I started working with military observers from UN in a house as a cook. They said there were 2 conditions I could do, is to speak a little bit of English and to cook. And I didn't know how to speak a little bit of English, and I didn't know how to cook. But I learned English over there for 10 months, and then I became interpreter. Then I was interpreter with UN for a year and 2 months, and then IFOR for already 6 months, 5 months. It's from this place, towns where were confrontation lines, and still there was a fight, but it was enough far so we couldn't hear shelling or feel anything from it.
And when did things start here in this region?
12th of July, 1992.
So from 1992 until last year, so for 3 years you had war here.
Yeah, I used to say 4 years of war because there was a war everywhere around, but not in our town. So we couldn't get the normal food supplies of everything. Although there was no shelling and no shooting, still it was a war in my opinion. That's the reason why I'm saying it's 4 years. And shelling and fighting started in Bihac 12th of July.
What are people mainly doing right now? Are they working or?
They're working on the ground. Yeah, they have their own gardens. They enjoy it much more than they think they'll use it because it's going to be very cheap this summer and everything. But still, they want to work freely. Otherwise, they were working, hiding themselves and trying not to get killed while working on it.
Because there's no like office jobs or anything like that right
There
now.
are, but not enough to employ very many people. Yeah, maybe 30% of people are employed, but not more. And everything is in the offices. It's not really possible to employ them all.
I asked you this before, but if I can ask you again, how long do you think it'll take for things to return to normal?
Well, as I told you, without talking about politics, I don't know. Let's say 5 years. If we start an industry soon, 5 years will be enough for people to recover. But it's not possible to heal wounds. I mean, inner wounds from emotions and everything. But those rebuilding and everything, it's going to last. But for some beginning, it's going to be five years, I think, if there is no war.
Tell me a little bit more about the emotions. How do people feel about what's happened in the last years?
Well, that's quite difficult to talk in somebody's behalf, you know. But I can tell you what I felt and what my family felt. I had a brother who was 5 years older than I was, and he got killed in a coffee bar. He was sitting in a coffee bar, and there was no coffee at that time and no anything to drink, and bar was not working at all. They were just young people gathered together, and they were sitting and smoking and talking. And 2 tank rounds hit the coffee bar, so he got killed instantly. And 17 of them were wounded. One of them, which was sitting at the same table as my brother, stayed without kidney. The other one is paralyzed now, cannot walk. The girl stayed without left eye. So it's not really very easy to talk about it. And you as a human being can think what somebody can feel that case. But I don't want to say that the same thing didn't happen on the other side or on the third side. So it's not very easy to go over it. And there is, I saw it on one blackboard, there was a paper written, we can forgive but we cannot forget. And I totally agree with it. We can go over it, okay? Someone will mislead the people, ordinary people, but someone cannot forget it as well. It's not really very easy. I was on the seaside. Well, as I told you, I got married months ago, and that was the first time after 7 years I was going on the seaside. Although every year, all my life, I was on the seaside. And when I saw sea after one big hill, I started crying as hell. And my husband said, "Well, there was nobody around who is touching you, and why are you crying?" At that moment, I felt what they had done to us. Then I felt what I lost everything and what I missed in my recent 5 or 4 years. You didn't enjoy, you were just working to survive till tomorrow, and then till tomorrow, and then till tomorrow. No future, nothing to predict, nothing to think about. Just simple life, nothing else. Those fields are okay, but as you can see the chain of the other hills over there, they were confrontation line.
Where? Which ones?
You see that big hill over there? You see the way you look? Yeah. That and whole chain of fields going along that hill over there.
Yeah.
Particularly the forest, they were confrontation line for 2 or 3 years. So it's not safe, and mostly people know it's not safe, and there are signs and everything. It's not safe to go there.
Right.
I'll show you now on the way we will see a castle. It's an old castle, very nice one, and it got 15 direct hits. And from this side it doesn't look that bad at all, but from the other side it had so many hits there is no ceiling at all, and you know they were very close at some moments, but it was going up and down and forth and back and forth.
How do you feel about the multinational implementation force being here? Is it effective? Is it doing
Yeah, I
its
think
duty?
so. Yeah. The problem with the IFOR is that they came after AMPROFOR, and AMPROFOR and UN disappointed people here. So definitely disappointed. I mean, not really. Everyone was just telling bad things about AMPROFOR. They didn't behave bad toward them, but they didn't feel they're doing anything to it. And before IFOR arrived, there was a big propaganda saying they are coming here to protect you, to make the zones of operation, to make peace, to make military security and everything. And people expect them to do everything, absolutely everything, because they told us that. And they are good, but although they had to show and prove they are not same as AMPROFOR, and they are not going to just let people down as AMPROFOR did.
Do you feel that AMPROFOR let people down?
No, I don't think individuals let people down, but the organization, UN organization, as an organization did. Because I was working with UN, and I know that particular persons, not particular, almost all of them, that were in the field, were definitely doing their best to do their job. But sometimes on the most difficult moments, as it was November and December 1994, when AMPROFOR didn't have what to eat here, and didn't have salaries, and didn't have anything, we were sitting and watching CNN, and their commander of their own forces, which were here, and which couldn't eat as well, and couldn't do anything, couldn't get salary, he sent a report opposite of report they wrote down. So they were very, very angry. And it wasn't the only one case. There were so many cases like that people were just humiliating their own people in the field. That's all. Our people was desperate. Of course, nothing to do. They couldn't help themselves. Every single house had someone on a confrontation line, so it wasn't really very easy to just to work and live while thinking about someone on a confrontation line. So they were looking at UN as an rescuer, and they disappointed them. That's the reason why they didn't do anything. They couldn't even bring a humanitarian aid here, what is the biggest problem concerning ordinary people so far.
That's fascinating. Can you tell me more about before versus the situation it is today? I mean, it must have been very frustrating. How did it develop?
You mean during the war and then?
Well, with UNPROFOR, how did it develop that it was not fulfilling its obligations?
Well, okay.
How do you feel?
There were resolutions they were bringing up, like no flying over Bosnia, safe zones, protected areas, etc., etc. Nothing of that has been respected. Nothing, because safe haven was Gorazde and safe haven was Srebrenica, and look what happened in Srebrenica. You are medias, and I think you could see the serial Death of Yugoslavia done by CBC or BBC, I don't remember. It was a wonderful show program saying how Srebrenica fell down and how UN was promising everything. Individual persons, members of UN, were helping to individual persons as well, as they were employing some interpreters, they were employing people in the camp, cleaning ladies, cooking and all these things. But still, it's just a drop in the sea, nothing else. It didn't help much. If you just stop any man on the road and ask him what does he think about Yasushi Akashi, let's say, he would scratch your eyes off, or he would say lots of bad things, because Yasushi Akashi wasn't really good toward Bosnia, at least toward our side. That's common opinion over here. Same is, they didn't hate UN, but they just thought that they were here for nothing. They didn't do anything really. Problem is maybe that our people were expecting too much from UN. You know, you start getting shelled and you are being without food and you think someone is going to help you finally, and you couldn't believe that such thing is happening. And then they are saying blue helmets are coming, you know, and we thought, oh Lord, there is blue helmets are coming, there'll be something finally, but there was nothing. There was just people, and like Bangladeshi battalion was here in Chorlichi in our difficult day, and they simply didn't have food, didn't have bullets, didn't have armored vehicles, nothing. They had nothing. On the meeting, there is even one funny thing. There was a common meeting, and BAC commander, Bihac area commander, said to Bangladeshi officer, I want you to shut all dogs that are running around camp, because people are hungry and we don't have enough medical supplies if whatever happens. And he said, I would do it, but I don't have bullets. He didn't have bullets for dogs, let alone for something that's more serious than dogs are. That's it. Visit me. Now, after the war, he's IFOR member working in Gornji British guy, 26-year-old. And he came with three other guys, and we were sitting and talking. He was explaining the situation we were in at the moment that he was here. He said, we didn't have food, and Amira was our cook, and she was cooking this, and we were eating, it was wonderful, and she would make food from nothing, etc. The stories he was telling were unbelievable, you know, for someone who didn't see it, or who didn't feel that, or anything similar to that. Very unbelievable to me even, but stories were true stories.
What are you hoping personally to do with your future?
Not getting caught in a war game. Well, I don't know really. I was in university in Sarajevo studying, unfortunately, Yugoslavian literature. So there is no university like that now in Bosnia, nor in Croatia. And I don't really feel like going to Serbia to study in such university. It is now on a similar university called Bosnian Literature and Language, but I think it's too limited. It's not wide enough to go and to finish university. That's the first thing. The other thing is I'm not really eager to go somewhere to school or whatever. I lost too many of my nerves to continue school here. And I got married as well. I'm not planning to go anywhere to live Bihac or whatever. if I'm not forced, I will go nowhere. I'll just stay Bihac. I like Bihac. I like being here and living here. I don't know. Maybe I'll base my future on my English knowledge. I can maybe do some English courses for kids in school or helping instructions for kids in school. There is a lot of work with translations for town officials, town documents, law translations or whatever. So I think I'll base myself on English, being interpreter. It doesn't mean I really love it, but I'll have to. HQ in the town. It was a small building, and we organized.
So June 12th was when the Federal Army left the barracks? Is that?
Yes. No. They left barracks in end of April 1992.
Okay. But they started shelling in June?
They started first in Krupa, that's a town 33 kilometers far from this place. They started shelling and expelling people from that place, and people escaped from that place, and refugees from that town, all of them were in Bihac and in Sazin. And they burned down the town. Town was completely devastated. After 5 years when I went there, it looked horrible. And there was like just walls and grass all over it, 4 meter high, whatever, almost wood, grown up in the middle of your dining room or whatever. And then people came here, people in Bihac couldn't believe that. No, it's not going to happen in Bihac, no way, we live together always. I told you there was 33% of Serb population in Bihac and 3% was in the war, like whatever, 17 was in before the war. I'm not sure really. So we always lived together, there were no problems at all. And
so if some of the Muslims went to 5 Corps, and I would imagine some of the Serbians went to fight with the Bosnian Serb army.
Yeah, some of them, but some of them stayed with the 5 Corps as well.
Really?
Yeah, there were lots of Serb killed fighting on the 5th Corps side.
But it must be in Bihac that there are some people who might even be neighbors who fought on opposite sides. How do they get along now? How do they, now that things are over, do they get along? Do they talk to each other?
No, they're not coming back. Most of the Serbs that went out from Bihac are afraid to come back. They are afraid, even maybe their hands are not dirty, as we used to say. They are simply afraid because the propaganda was strong against us. They were saying the Muslims killed all Serbs that were in the town and they put their heads all over a bridge. It wasn't true, and we could see it on a Banja Luka TV. And if your own media is saying that, of course you'll be scared and you will believe it, at least partly, if not 100%. People are not coming back. Some of them are coming back, the brave ones, and they just come, and it's important to pass over first few days, because when I go on the opposite side with IFOR, I'm scared, let alone just to come alone without any protection. They get along. I am very happy when I see my friend, which I didn't see for 5 or 6 years, which still thinks in a normal and reasonable way, thinking that everything was just for nothing and stupid, and people just got killed for nothing, because territory is not important at all.
So what's the story of the bridge?
Well, this is the main bridge in the town, and it's the main communication in the whole town, which is leading on the other side of the Una River. And lots of people got wounded on this bridge. but they had to. There was no. In fact, there were the other ways to go out, but also they could have get shelled over there as well as here. The most sad story was when that was winter, hunger all over around and lots of fighting, and Chetniks were on those hills over here, so they could see when somebody's passing the bridge. They couldn't snipe us, but still. And the shell landed, and I was there in the neighborhood. A shell landed on a bridge. That was maybe 10th or 15th shell on a bridge already, and 4 persons got killed. There were 2 ladies, 2 girls, young girls. They were already on the end of the bridge, and 2 guys, 2 soldiers. They were on their days off, I would say. Going back to barracks, as we found out later, and one of them stayed without head. So I passed half an hour after. I passed the place, and it was blood all over around, and I could see the glove on the middle of the bridge because the girls were dressed well. That's the most sad story, but people were just passing by and looking at it, helpless. Nothing to do. You have your own fathers and husbands and brothers fighting for you, and all what you can do is to support them and look at people dying around or getting hurt and wounded.
Hi!
Dropping off the interpreter in Bihac, we took a short break ourselves. The quaint city straddling the river Una was slowly returning to something normal. Electricity was still very much hit and miss for the townspeople, but sidewalk cafes had returned. The damage was evident throughout the inner city. Pockmarked walls and signs, debris still littered some side streets, but people were coming back. There was a sense of hope. Distant music and birds mixed with traffic and conversations. About the size of Fredericton, the medieval city has roots back to 1260 and has seen conflict throughout the ages. The Turks occupied Bihac in 1592 after a 10-day siege, and from that time Bihac was one of the most important forts in Bosnia until the 19th century. During the Second World War, the town was occupied by Axis troops and was included into Pavlić's independent state of Croatia. The fascist Ustaša, aligned with the Nazis, committed atrocities against local Serbs, Jews, and Roma. From July to September 1941, some 15,000 Serbs were massacred along with Jews and Roma victims at the Garavaci, an extermination location near Bihac. The town was the capital of a short-lived territory, the Bihac Republic, for 2 months in late 1942 and early 1943, until it was recaptured by German forces. Bihac returned to the Bosnian territory on March 28, 1945. The city was besieged for 3 years from 1992 to 1995 during the Bosnian War.
Hoće li opet biti ove zime drva se koristiti ili se nešto drugo kod?
Koristim samo drvo, ovako vjetar sad duva po parku, kupilo sam sve 4 godine dana ove ekrane, jer nemam novca od čega da kupim.
She would collect it and then have it for fire. She didn't have enough money to provide herself with the wood for heating and cooking, so she had to manage herself.
What else do they use for heating in Bihac?
Nothing but wood, yeah.
Always been that way?
No, not always. There was cool.
Yeah.
Why did his flash go off?
Then I don't think it went. Probably light enough, no?
The relaxed attitudes at the cafe tables was a great improvement over the past few months. It was something people could finally do without worry for the first time in over 4 years. With the interpreter safely in Bihac, we headed back to Koralichi. I was only just starting to absorb all that I'd seen in just the past few days.